You know, usually when we think about history, we kind of imagine it safely trapped behind glass in a museum.
Right, yeah.
Like a black and white photograph or maybe a dusty telegram, just something static.
Something you could just sort of categorize as the past.
Exactly. You look at it, you acknowledge it, and then you just walk back out into the modern world.
It creates this very comfortable psychological distance.
Yeah.
The past becomes a completely different era, that has zero bearing on our Tuesday morning commute.
Right, or our current reality. But then you encounter a story that just completely shatters the glass.
Oh, for sure.
You meet someone who is not just a relic of history, but a living, breathing participant in the present. I mean, someone born before the Titanic was even built.
Which is just wild to think about.
Before commercial radio existed. And yet, on August 21st, 2026, she was blowing out candles on a birthday cake.
Which really forces us to completely reevaluate our entire timeline of the human experience.
It really does. So today, we're talking about the remarkable Ethel Caterham, who just turned 117 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. That makes her the oldest living person in the world right now, and the very first verified British person to ever reach that specific milestone.
That's a massive deal.
It is. Now, when you hear the number 117, the entirely predictable reaction is to ask, what is her secret?
Oh, of course. Everyone wants the magic formula.
Right. Did she drink a glass of wine every day? Did she, avoid sugar? Did she sleep facing north?
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if we just treat Ethel as this biological puzzle to be solved or a checklist of dietary habits to mimic, we are entirely missing the point.
Completely missing it.
The real mission of our deep dive today isn't about figuring out how to live for 12 decades. It's about exploring what actually happens to a human life during those bonus decades. Does your world inevitably have to shrink until there's nothing left?
And looking at the source material we have today, which is this really great synthesis of biographical notes, historical context, and some modern reflections on longevity, we really need to establish a firm ground rule here.
Okay, what is it?
We cannot look at Ethel's life as a medical prescription for immortality.
Right.
Doing that just reduces a century of complex human experience into a biohacking trend.
Which we see a lot of these days.
Exactly. Instead, we should analyze her life as a masterclass in adapting to a profoundly changing world.
Yeah.
She really offers the ultimate case study in the mechanics of resilience.
Well, to understand the mechanics of that resilience, we have to look at the foundation she built. So Ethel was born in England in 1909.
1909.
1909. Just to set the baseline of reality here, she grew up in a house without electricity.
Right.
No running water.
Yeah, daily life wasn't just, inconvenient by our standards. It required immense physical labor.
And grit, just to maintain a basic level of survival.
Absolutely. And that environment sets a very specific baseline for distress tolerance.
Distress tolerance.
Yeah. When your formative years require fetching water and navigating a world without modern medical safety nets, your psychological threshold for what constitutes a crisis
I see.
is calibrated very differently than someone born in, say, 1999.
Right. Which definitely explains her striking, almost radical independence early on.
Oh, total.
Because at 18 years old, in the late 1920s, she takes this massive leap. She boards a ship completely alone for a 3-week voyage to India.
It's incredible.
To work for a British family. It kind of reminds me of how the immune system works,
Very so.
Well, just like the immune system needs exposure to foreign pathogens to build antibodies, her psychological resilience required exposure to foreign environments. She had to build a tolerance for uncertainty.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it. Psychologists actually refer to this mechanism as stress inoculation.
Stress inoculation, okay.
Yeah, by intentionally subjecting herself to manageable but intense doses of the unknown.
Like a 3-week sea voyage.
It's exactly. Navigating a foreign culture, being completely disconnected from all familiar support structures. She was actively wiring her brain's threat detection system.
So she wouldn't just panic when things got tough later.
Precisely. She was building a neurological buffer against panic, teaching her brain to remain calm in unfamiliar territory.
And she didn't stop there. So she marries Norman Caterham, who was a British Army officer.
Right.
And her life just maintains this massive global footprint. They live in Gibraltar. They move to Hong Kong.
And she doesn't just like passively trail along with him?
No, not at all. She actively establishes a nursery in Hong Kong for both British and local children.
Which is huge.
Right. She is constantly pushing into new, unknown territories and organizing the chaos around her into something productive. And this is before they eventually settle back in England to raise their 2 daughters.
You know, it's sort of like,
Oh, it makes me think of an open world video game. You know, opening up the map in a vast open world video game. You start in this one small revealed area and everything else is covered in fog.
and you just have to keep walking into the fog to reveal the map.
Exactly. She was just constantly pushing the boundaries of her map. And I feel like that early habit of expansion must have built a real psychological muscle for adaptability.
Notice the pattern of proactive engagement there, too.
Mm-hmm.
She isn't just reacting to where the army sends her husband. She is actively extracting value and creating community in every single location.
Yeah.
That habit of continuous expansion built a robust cognitive and emotional reserve.
Right.
And that exact reserve, that adaptability she built in her 20s and 30s was going to be the only thing that could sustain her when the trajectory of her life inevitably changed.
Because eventually the geographic expansion stops.
Exactly. The challenges become intensely personal and localized.
And that shift hits really hard in 1976. That's when Norman passes away. Think about that date. She was widowed in 1976 and has lived an entire second lifetime as a widow, like 50 years.
It's staggering when you put it in those terms.
And society, especially in the mid-70s, had very specific and honestly often diminishing expectations for widows.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sociologically, widowhood in that era often meant a rapid shrinking of a woman's social and financial radius.
The expectation was just to quietly retreat.
Right. The loss of a spouse is one of the most severe psychological stressors a human can endure. It often triggers this cascade of physical decline.
From the grief.
Yeah, increased cortisol, isolation, depression. The default path for most people is contraction.
But she completely rejected that
She
contraction.
really did.
She filled the void by throwing herself into gardening, walking her dogs, cultivating a really robust social life. And one detail from the sources that really stuck out to me, she became a regular, highly dedicated bridge player.
Now, the inclusion of bridge is not a throwaway detail.
It's not just a quaint hobby.
No, not at all. It is crucial to understanding her cognitive longevity.
Really?
Yeah. Neurologically speaking, bridge is an intensely demanding high-load activity.
Okay, because you're tracking cards.
Exactly. It requires active working memory to track cards, you're doing strategic deduction, pattern recognition, and it involves complex social interaction with a partner.
Oh, wow. So it's essentially a neuroprotective workout that's just disguised as a card game.
That's a great way to phrase it. You're constantly building and firing new synaptic pathways, and researchers now know that is a primary buffer against neurodegeneration. You're building cognitive reserve.
Wow. And that cognitive reserve obviously goes hand in hand with her physical tenacity.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, she refused to give up the keys to her car until she was 97 years old.
97.
That is an incredible run of pure physical autonomy.
It's unheard of for most people.
Right. But naturally, the timeline advances, she crosses the century mark, and we do see a gradual redrawing of those boundaries.
Which is to be expected.
Yeah. Around 107, she makes this calculated compromise and moves into an annex at her daughter Anne's home. So she is compromising on the living space, reducing her physical footprint, but she's still playing bridge well into her centenarian years.
She is negotiating with age rather than surrendering to it.
Right.
She accepts the annex to manage physical risk, but she fiercely protects the social, cognitive stimulation that actually gives her life structure.
That's such a good point. We've established she could adapt to geographic changes and even the loss of her spouse. But the true test of this resilience muscle is how it handles the ultimate loss of a support system.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the year 2020. Ethel is 110 years old.
On 110.
And her daughter Anne passes away. At 110, she loses her child and her primary caretaker.
It's just heartbreaking.
It forces her out of the annex and into full residential care. And then, navigating the grief of losing her daughter and the disorientation of a brand new facility, she contracts COVID-19.
Oh, man.
And this is in 2020, before widespread vaccines.
What's fascinating here is the compounding physiological and psychological toll of that specific sequence of events.
Yeah.
It cannot be overstated.
Right.
The grief alone at a 110 could be fatal, let alone introducing a novel vascular virus to a centenarian.
But she recovered. She survived it.
It's incredible.
It is. But, reading through the source material on this transition into the care facility, it brought up a major question for me.
What was that?
Because you see her move into residential care, and you see the physical radius of her life dramatically reduce, right?
Naturally.
So at what point do we as a society mistakenly equate a person's physical dependence with their total disappearance from the world?
Oh, that question cuts to the core tension of elder care today.
Right, because it feels like we just write people off.
Culturally, we tend to view the transition to residential care as the curtain dropping.
Yeah.
We treat it like a waiting room for the end.
Right.
We strip individuals of their agency just because they need help with activities of daily living.
But Ethel's story forcefully rejects that narrative.
Completely. Yeah. She proves that dependence is not disappearance. Requiring assistance to bathe or manage medications or prepare food, that does not mean a person has ceased to be a participant in the human experience.
Wait, but if you look at, the billions of dollars pouring into Silicon Valley longevity clinics right now, it seems like the goal is absolutely still just extending the timeline.
Oh, sure.
You have tech billionaires swapping blood and obsessing over cellular aging to try and live to 150. Are you saying mainstream medicine is abandoning that quest for sheer lifespan?
I'm saying mainstream geriatric medicine recognizes a crucial distinction that this fringe biohacking often ignores.
Okay, what's the distinction?
For the last century, medical innovation, things like antibiotics, surgical interventions, cardiovascular medications, it was largely dedicated to keeping people alive longer.
And they succeed.
They absolutely succeeded. But extending the timeline created a new crisis.
Wow.
What good is living to 110 if you are bedbound, completely isolated, and unable to interact with your environment?
Right.
So the medical focus in geriatrics has shifted from merely extending lifespan to maximizing health span.
Health span.
Which means preserving daily physical function.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, because clinical metrics are sort of just engine horsepower, right?
What do you mean?
They're completely useless if the car never leaves the garage.
Right.
Like having a massive V8 engine with a high horsepower number, or in this case, a great grip strength score or lung capacity reading on a clinical chart.
Right.
It's totally irrelevant if it doesn't translate to real-world movement. True function is the currency that buys you access to life.
Function as currency. That is the exact paradigm.
Yeah.
The medical field measures gait speed or balance because they're reliable data points.
Yeah.
But the patient only cares about what those data points enable them to do.
Right. It's about whether that grip strength actually allows you to open your front door.
Exactly.
It's about having the balance and the stamina to just walk down a hallway to visit a friend or to sit in a garden. It's about having the physical capacity to sit at a table for an hour, to play that decades-old game of bridge.
The clinical metrics only matter insofar as they enable that human experience.
Exactly.
But we do need to introduce a heavy dose of reality here, just based directly on the source notes.
Okay, hit me with reality.
We have to temper the expectation that maintaining this function is purely a matter of willpower and good habits.
Because of genetics.
Right. Ethel had a sister who lived to be 104.
Ah. Wow, so the genetic deck was heavily stacked in their favor from birth.
Exceptionally stacked. Biology and genetics clearly dealt their family an advantageous hand regarding cellular aging and disease resistance.
Yeah, you can't just ignore that.
No, you can't. When you combine that genetic lottery ticket with a safe environment, access to quality medical care over a century, and frankly, the sheer chance required to avoid fatal accidents,
Right.
that's how you get to 1 in 17. So we must be deeply suspicious of this cottage industry that tries to turn one statistical anomaly of a human life into a lifestyle prescription. You cannot simply manifest or biohack your way to 117 by mimicking Ethel's diet or taking up gardening.
So we aren't fighting to hit the number 117. That's out of our hands.
Exactly.
What we are fighting for is that baseline function. Because when you maintain that function, even in a highly modified way, you unlock the ability to maintain the psychological resilience we talked about earlier.
Which perfectly sets the stage for Ethel's final years.
Yeah.
Because as her physical radius shrank, her mind aggressively kept her world open.
The geography got smaller, but the internal experience did not.
Exactly.
Let's look at how she operated in her 110s. At 112 years old, she wasn't just sitting passively in a room watching television. She was getting dressed up, navigating the logistics, and going out to a local hotel for afternoon tea.
Which is incredible. Just consider the executive function and the physical coordination required for that outing.
Right.
The desire to be out in public, to partake in a cultural ritual. It shows an active, intentional engagement with the present moment.
And at 115, the care home recognized this need for access and actually created physical spaces tailored to her mobility.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they built Ethel's garden and an area called Ethel's patio right outside her room, just ensuring she could easily get out and feel the sun on her face.
Which perfectly illustrates your earlier point about function as currency. Her world shrank from the continent of Asia down to the size of a patio. But she utilized every ounce of her remaining function to ensure she could still access that patio.
Exactly. But my absolute favorite moment in this entire deep dive is her 116th year.
Visit.
The visit. She receives a royal visit from King Charles III. And she doesn't just politely shake his hand and nod.
No, she doesn't.
She actively engages him with her century of context. She remembers watching his investiture as the Prince of Wales on television way back in 1969, and she looks at the King of England and cheekily teases him that back then, all the girls had been in love with him.
I love that so much.
Right.
Because that requires remarkable cognitive sharpness and social confidence.
Mm-hmm.
She isn't intimidated by the monarch. She is contextualizing him within her own vast memory.
Yeah, she is bringing her history into the present just to make a connection.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to the milestone itself, her 117th birthday in August 2026. When people inevitably asked her about her life and the year that had just passed, she didn't frame it as endurance.
Right.
She didn't talk about merely surviving another 365 days. She explicitly spoke about experiencing firsts.
And from a neurobiological perspective, that is the most staggering detail in the entire source text.
Really, the firsts.
Yes. As the human brain ages, dopamine receptors naturally decline, and that typically reduces novelty-seeking behavior. The natural inclination is to stick entirely to the familiar.
But she didn't. She celebrated with her family, she listened to music, and she sought out novelty. She experienced something completely new. She's stroked a llama for the very first time at 117 years old.
It's amazing.
And she explicitly stated that she was actively looking forward to seeing what the next year would bring. She was still seeking novelty.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the defining lesson of Ethel Caterham.
Yeah.
It is the profound, unyielding belief that tomorrow can still contain a first. It does not matter how small the physical radius of your world has become.
Right.
It doesn't matter if your map covers a continent, a country, a house, or just a patio. As long as you believe that something new can enter your life, your world remains fundamentally open.
So what does this all mean for us? We started this deep dive by asking what happens to a life during those bonus decades and whether the world inevitably has to shrink as we age. Ethel Caterham's story fundamentally changes the ultimate question of aging.
It really does.
The question is not, how long can I live? The real question, the one that actually dictates the quality of our daily existence, is how long can I keep my world open?
Which requires a radical shift in how we evaluate our own lives right now.
Yeah.
Not just when we're 117.
Yeah.
We spend so much of our culture obsessing over the accumulation of time. We track our sleep cycles. We measure our macros. We look for the next supplement to extend our timeline.
Guilty.
Right. But if our physical worlds inevitably do shrink as we age, if the map naturally goes from the expanse of India to the confines of a garden patio, what if we completely stopped measuring our lives by the sheer number of years we managed to accumulate?
Oh, wow.
What if instead we started auditing our lives right now by the number of genuine firsts we actively choose to experience each month?